Andrew Boden. Andrew est canadien anglophone, mais il est aussi un petit peu suisse, parce que sa maman est née en Turgovie et il a le passeport suisse. Enfin, il a passé toute sa vie au Canada, dans la province de Colombie-Britannique, qui est juste au-dessus de Seattle, c'est la côte pacifique, la côte ouest, au sud. En tant qu'auteur, Andrew a publié de nombreux textes de fiction et de non-fiction dans un grand nombre de magazines. Il a publié un recueil de nouvelles intitulé « The Secret History of My Hometown ». 6 nouvelles qui réinventent l'histoire d'une petite ville de Colombie-Britannique depuis sa fondation au début du 19e jusqu'à nos jours. En 2024, c'est-à-dire il n'y a pas très longtemps, il a publié son premier roman, When We Were Ashes, chez Goose Éditions. Son livre, qui se passe dans l'Allemagne nazie de 1940, raconte l'histoire d'un groupe d'enfants soumis à l'euthanasie forcée, le programme d'Hitler nommé Action T4, et celle également des adultes qui ont contribué à la mise en œuvre de cette politique. Son roman a été shortlisté, comme on dit en bon français, pour le prix 2025 Amazon Canada First Novel Award. Andrew a également travaillé à la conception d'un livre tout à fait particulier intitulé Hidden Lives, Coming Out on Mental Illness, une anthologie réunissant des essais rédigés par des auteurs qui souffrent d'un trouble mental grave ou d'un trouble du développement ou ont un membre de leur famille qui en souffre. Andrew est très impliqué dans l'aide de l'apprentissage de la lecture pour les enfants défavorisés. Il est directeur du Books Over Borders, une organisation caritative canadienne d'alphabétisation des enfants, et a aidé des milliers d'enfants en Afghanistan et au Canada à apprendre à lire.
Bonsoir à tous. Mon français n'est pas très bon, donc je lis en anglais. Thank you, Sophie, for the introduction, and thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. As Sophie said, my novel, When We're Ashes, isn't about an easy subject, and there's no real way around that. It's about one of the darkest chapters in the history of Nazi Germany, but an important one to tell, I think. My novel is about a terrible program called Action T4, a campaign which persecuted people with disabilities in Germany. Approximately 300,000 people were killed. My novel follows a group of young victims of this program and follows the lives of some of the survivors. And before you think, is this Canadian here just to depress us with his dark novel? No. If you read my book, I hope you note how much beauty I put into the writing, just how much humanity I tried to draw out of the darkness, and just how much tenderness and love there can be in even the darkest times. I'm going to read from a small selection near the beginning of my novel. Part of the beauty I put into it focuses on music, in particular the French composer Eric Satie and his Gymnopédies, which were published in the late 1800s. So I'm reading from near the beginning. It's from the point of view of a young 13-year-old boy named Rainer. He and his fellow patients are staying at a sanitarium in Stuttgart, and they are about to be moved to a so-called euthanasia center by the Third Reich. So, Rainer, February 6, 1940, Stuttgart, Germany. Opa Louis called our hospital ward the asylum, and sometimes the farm. He cleaned stalls on the farm, he joked with Nurse Hildy. He scrubbed them for his mythical beasts, his centaurs, his satyrs, his cyclops. He loved all 25 of us with our blind eyes, mute tongues, and corkscrew limbs, our hourly fits sent from an offended God. Each Tuesday morning, Opa Louis played the gymnopédies on his gramophone and tossed Swiss chocolates on the floor, and in the time we scrambled to grab them, he'd strip the cots of our dirty linen. We thought of rain falling on moonlit Paris until the record had finished for the third time, and Opa Louis had creased the corners on the last bed. On the Tuesday, matron called him into her office. He played us the gymnopédies for the last time. Matron shut the door on those of us who still had eyes and ears and curious thoughts. The record played until the scratch halfway through the first side, and only then did Opa Louis slip from her office. His hands shook as if he'd been electrocuted. He shut his gramophone in its pine box and asked us to gather near him so that he could take a pretend photograph of us. Matron had once said to Nurse Hildy that I looked like a Mongol troll and that my small teeth had gaps like a parapet. I didn't care what I looked like just then. I lowered the wool scarf that I wore over my nose and mouth everywhere I went. I grinned for Opa Louis. Poof, he cried out, as if a flashbulb had really exploded. He tapped his temple. Here's the memory of all of you. That is how we go on. Go on. I thought that last go on was an order for us, but Emmy had said that it wasn't shouted at us like everyone else shouted at us, so why should we obey? Those of us who disobeyed Opa Louis' order to carry on were the ones I later dreamt of the most. Rainer, wave goodbye, Nurse Hildy said. Children, hum the song. When Opa Louis turned to leave, I took my photograph of him with his black caracal cap perched on his dark brown hair and his face turned to the first ruddy ray of the morning sun. The light tinted his moist eyes with orange. Winter crept through the thin hospital window and made his tears fall as snowflakes. Our humming of the gymnopédies melted them again. It's his joke, Dieter, an older boy, struggled to laugh. He is coming back, Rainer. This is Opa's farm. The gray bus came for us at sunrise on the following Tuesday. Opa Louis had never missed a day with us before. Every Tuesday morning we awoke to his buckets and brooms and his damp copies of the Frankfurter Zeitung, the only newspaper I ever saw him read. Nurse Hildy said that he had an ulcer as vengeful as Herr Stalin, but I knew that this was a fib. Opa Louis had also never been sick. His stomach was lined with more steel than Herr Stalin had in all his tanks. That morning all the other children rallied around Nurse Hildy for their ration of chocolates. I remained on my cot and longed to hear the falling rain in the gymnopédies one last time. Thank you.